Cheez-Its, get the hell out! I mean it! Out!
お前はもう死んでいる。何？もうは確認できる。
Alright, so in my last Red Dead vid I covered Civil War references, but there's just so many in this game, it's a wonder why they didn't just start it there and let us live out Dutch's childhood. But they got to say something for the next game in 10 years, am I right, people? And since I already explained the general information about the war in my last vid, I'm just going to jump into this one. During one of my first treks through the state of Lemoyne, I was stopped by 5 grizzled men on the road and asked to pay a toll for riding through Raider country. We worked out an even exchange where I would trade them bullets for their lives, and after reading a letter one of them had after looting, I instantly knew who they were trying to be. The Lemoyne Raiders are a combination of pre-Civil War Kansas border ruffians, Quantrill's Raiders, and a few other nefarious factions that developed around the time. I will say this, if the states were a group of troublesome children, Missouri would be the one most likely to light the curtains on fire. And even when they swore they wouldn't do it again, the instant we turned our backs, they'll start asking Oklahoma where the matches went. The Border Ruffians were the nickname of the, ruffians from the border of Missouri who crossed into Kansas at the time. Kansas was given the opportunity to decide for themselves if they want to be a free or slave state upon entering the soon-to-be broken Union. Violence quickly erupted after both sides accused each other of rigged elections, and many were killed for more than a decade in a conflict known as Bleeding Kansas. The Border Ruffians were a pro-slavery group who came in support of the slave staters and were one of the most violent of the groups. Next we have Quantrill's Raiders, who were a guerrilla group that fought for the South during the war and had many successful raids and even trained Frank and Jesse James. They eventually got too bloody and went rogue after the Confederacy withdrew its support after telling them to stop killing loads of civilians. But giving a big proverbial middle finger to everyone, Quantrill's Raiders kept on going, killing Union soldiers and civilians alike. They eventually splintered into groups, with many killed towards the end of the war. Afterwards, some survivors under General Archie Clement continued as outlaws, harassing the state government of, well, you guessed it, Missouri. Going around Lemoyne, you will often run into deserted cabins with chains inside, or with the huge plantations of the Grays and Braithwaites, there are old buildings on the side that were almost certainly slave quarters before the war. Arthur often reacts in horror and disgusted surprise upon seeing these, and what was the natural reaction many northern troops had upon seeing them for the first time themselves. There was even a mission where he had to help an old man recover his diary because he wanted to reminisce about the old life where he owned stuff, as the game couldn't be winking at you harder as to guess what he was talking about. There was a heavily idealized story that was created for the South and its history up to the point of the Civil War, and it was created mostly by Southern supporters during and after the conflict, but it was also tended and pruned by their children and future generations. The Lost Cause became the main name for this story of the heroic South standing up to a tyrannical North, and would be supported by numerous small factions even to this day. Alright, so Hamish Sinclair. Helping Hamish get his horse back, which is named Buell, is not only a reference just because he's a Civil War veteran, but Buell is also the name of a general. General Don Carlos Buell to be exact, and he was a general for the North and didn't rank too high in terms of wrecking the enemy's ship. One major engagement he did help out in though was the Battle of Shiloh in 1862, and while not the bloodiest battle in the war, it did cost more lives than the American dead in all previous wars combined up to that point. It was mainly a battle fought between Grant and Johnston, but after the first day, Grant was on the ropes. Buell came by riverboat and reinforced Grant, and Union forces were doubled literally overnight. The North won that fight, and I'll say it's probable that Hamish was wounded there, or at Perryville, but you get the point. Buell wasn't the guy out front leading the troops or giving the rousing speech. He was the more managerial type who would probably enjoy everything but the battles in real-time strategy games today. Now let's take a quick moment and go back to the previous Red Dead Redemption game with John Marston. You could find gold bars in the game and they were all named after generals. The game never told you this outright, but this was a play on the rumors of hidden Confederate gold. Many Southern civilians, especially during the Sherman's March, buried valuables to hide them from Northern troops. But it was to no avail because most of the time their slaves would just tell the troops where it was anyway. But the names on the gold bars were the interesting part, being the combo of Northern and Southern generals' names. And that's it, I'm not doing any more Civil War references for this game, but I hope you learned something today. And if you liked the video, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe for more content. And if you have any other suggestions for games you would like me to do, go ahead and write them in the comment section below. I'm Eric, the Lonepinewolfman, and remember gamers, never stop learning.